Hello and welcome to the Sociology 3 Module 4 Part 2 video lecture. In Part 1 we focused on becoming a critical reader. In Part 2 we're going to focus on how to become a better critical writer. So two assigned readings that I'm going to talk about in this lecture: the Writing for Sociology Guide, so two chapters out of that I wanted you to focus on, and the American Sociological Association Citation Style Guide. So first what I want to do is I want to talk about qualities of a critical writer and emphasize some of the most important things that they're talking about in the Writing for Sociology Guide. So the first thing that a critical writer does is they somehow think about what it is they're going to write before they start writing. This will help you immensely. This will also prevent that problem that I often have, which is when I sit down and a blank computer screen is staring at me with that nasty little cursor. It's almost like it's taunting me. You don't know what to write. If you do some kind of outlining or pre-writing process, this can help immensely with that writing anxiety. So whether it's actually outlining in words, points, subpoints, etc., or maybe visually mapping your argument, or maybe even just verbally talking it out with a friend or a professor, definitely want to think about what it is that you're going to write before you actually sit down to your computer. Also, as part of this pre-writing process, have a very clear idea of who your audience is. So the papers that you're going to write, everything actually you're writing for this class, I'm your primary audience, and with the discussion board posting, so are your peers. So just consider who it is that you're writing for and have a clear sense of what their expectations are. A critical writer also has a very clear and compelling thesis statement, right? This is actually where you're making an argument. And a thesis statement is actually something that's debatable. The Writing for Sociology Guide gives you a lot of good information about how to write a very strong thesis statement. Third, a critical writer uses defendable premises or evidence. There's that word again, evidence, incredibly important in critical thinking, critical reading, and critical writing, to support their argument. A critical writer also revises and rewrites, and often revises and rewrites again, based on critical feedback. And hopefully you're getting constructive feedback. So we have a lot of writing assignments in this course, and my logic of assigning you so many writing assignments is so that you can get feedback all throughout the semester on how to improve your writing. One good thing I can recommend for becoming a better writer is find a writing buddy that you trust, or find services like the Fresno State Writing Center that allows you to get significant and constructive feedback on your writing. And then finally, and we're going to talk about this at the end of this lecture, a critical writer appropriately cites their sources, and we're going to talk about how to do that in a moment. So I want to talk a little bit more about the pre-writing process, especially the importance of outlining. It's one of the things I cannot recommend highly enough. Again, outlining can be in words. It can also be in images. Maybe it's, you have different text in bubbles, and you can, show how the ideas connect to one another. When I was in college and learning how to become a better writer, I had a small whiteboard in my dorm room that I used to literally map out, like a concept map out my arguments on that whiteboard, and that was immensely helpful. You can do that on just a standard piece of paper. But outlining is really the best way to impose structure on your writing. And I've learned that if you can't really articulate your paper even as bullet points in outlining form, you're going to have a very difficult time doing it effectively in narrative prose. So this is a really good way to ward off writing anxiety and writer's block if you have a good sense of what it is that you're going to be writing first. Another benefit of outlining is that if your argument has holes, they're much easier to detect in an outline that really shows you the whole structure of your argument in your paper than in a narrative draft. And finally, a lot of papers are streams of consciousness where you just kind of roam from one idea to the next without having a well-organized argument. This can sometimes work for fiction writing, but not in analytical papers like in this class where you're going to need to make an argument. So outlining is very, very important, a very good skill to develop as you become a critical writer. So I want to talk about citation next. So the first question when it comes to citation is, when do you need to actually cite sources? And there are three main reasons you would want to cite a source. You need to fully and properly give authorship credit, which is what it means to cite something, right? Giving credit to the author. to any source that you use in your writing in the following ways. If you paraphrase someone, if you take their words and put them into your own words, you definitely want to give that person credit. You don't necessarily need to use direct quotes, but you do need to put the author's name in parentheses, and the ASA style guide that I assigned for this week shows you how to do that. Anytime you directly reference someone, say that you had written reference something that I had written, you were directly quoting me, you would want to make sure that you would put in parentheses Randall's, comma, the year, and then the page number. Again, we're going to talk about the ASA style guide that shows you specifically how to do that for this course. And really, the third way is if you rely on, in any way, someone else's work as you write your own paper, as you come up with your own ideas, you also want to cite that person. And the most important tip I can give you for citation is always err on the side of citing too much rather than too little. I promise, in my over 10 years of teaching, I have never written on a student's paper, you have too many sources in your reference list. I have, however, had to have some serious conversations with students when they didn't appropriately cite their sources. And then you're starting to get into the realm of plagiarizing. And oftentimes that kind of plagiarism is very unintentional. And if there's ever any question about what you should cite, always ask. Learning how to cite appropriately is another critical thinking skill that one has to usually develop over a longer period of time. So I want to talk briefly about citation style basics. So what citations, and again, anytime I say the word citation, I'm just referring to the sources that end up in your reference list, and then also who you're citing in the text of your paper. They allow you to identify and credit your sources, and they also, especially the information you provide in the reference list, offers the reader enough information so that he or she could go consult that source themselves, so they could find it and check your evidence. So all citation styles, which simply refers to the format that you have to use to cite your sources, really, they cite the same basic types of information, but they do tend to differ by field. So say whether you're in sociology, nursing, psychology versus engineering. They can also differ by professor and even publication venue. So for example, different sociology journals use different citation styles. In this course, we're going to use the American Sociological Association, or ASA is the acronym, style. And I've given you a very brief but very comprehensive citation style guide as one of your required readings for this week. And so again, regardless of what style you use, they're all going to report things like author, the year of publication, title, a page range for the source if it's like a book chapter or a journal article, a section if you're getting a source out of a newspaper, a website or a hyperlink if it's an electronic source, the date of access if you accessed it electronically, and then the publisher name and location, which is typically only cited for books. So in terms of how to cite sources for the purposes of this course in ASA style, go ahead and just read that quick style guide. It's only 4 pages. And then you can find all of the information that you'll need on how to cite things in the text, which simply means in the actual narrative portion of your paper. That's on page 1 and 2. How to put together a reference list starts on page 2. Books and journal articles, how to cite those, are also on page 2. And then electronic resources and websites, those are on page 3. And pretty much any other source that you'll need for this class or any other class will be available. They'll show you how to cite it in that quick style guide. And another quick tip here, even if a book or article is available online, go ahead and use the citation format for a book or article. You don't have to cite it as a website or a hyperlink. And finally, I want to conclude this video lecture by giving you a few quick citation tips that have really helped me make this easier. How often have you been scrambling to finish a paper and it's hard enough to actually write the thing, much less complete your reference list in the way that you're supposed to format it? So let me give you a few quick tips to make that process easier. Always create and maintain a list of all of the sources that you use for your paper as you write. This will save you the headache of having to locate source information last minute. If you make a copy of a source, say you're in the library and you're looking at a book and you only need one chapter out of it and you make a copy, just at the top of that, always make sure you write down the full citation information on the actual copy. That way you're not sitting in your room at midnight when the library is closed and you can't access it and you have to get that information. A lot of times you can find that information online, but sometimes you can't, especially like a page range, maybe your copy cut off the page numbers. So just write it down. That will save you a lot of headaches in the future. Always cite each and every source you use in your paper, again, including both quotes and paraphrases. Again, always err on the side of citing too much rather than thinking, oh, I may not need to cite that. Now, you don't want your entire paper to be just, direct quotation after direct quotation. So make sure you don't do that. You want the vast majority of the paper to be actually your own words and your own ideas. But anytime you rely in any way on someone else's work, make sure that you cite it. It prevents a problem, again, of finding yourself in any kind of potential unintentional plagiarism situation, and it just makes for a more complete reference list. And then finally, this is something that I learned well after I graduated college and grad school, but has been immensely helpful ever since, so I want to share it with you all. Become familiar with what's called bibliographic management software. This allows you to electronically store all your citation information in your computer in one computer file. So some pay-for softwares are OneNote, RefWorks, and EndNotes, but there are a variety of free bibliographic management software packages out there. And what's great, say you get a journal article off the library's website, oftentimes with the click of one button, you can download all the citation information that you'll need in that software, and then the software allows you to put it into different citation styles. So say you cite something for this class, that you need an ASA style. With the click of a button, it can do that. Maybe you want to use that same source for a course where they use the AMA, the American Medical Association citation style, and then it allows you to do that again with just a click of a button. So I hope this was helpful as you think about how to become a better writer. I know that writing is a very nerve-wracking process. It is for me, even after many years of writing. But I hope these have given you some good ideas for maybe how to deal with some of that writing anxiety. And happy writing, everyone.